Yo, 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 you know what it is. You know where you is. Oh, yes. You know what time it is. Yes, it is that time. Once again, welcome to the I Am the Possible podcast experience. Yes, this is the place where possibilities become perspective. Guys, welcome once again into the I Am the Possible universe. Thank you so much for rocking with me once again in the place to be. So many amazing things for you and I to see. I is your host, Treveal C.W. Lynch, Mr. What, and I am here to help you to learn, to love, and to live more of what you already are. Guys, I'm so excited to be with you on this bonus track edition of the I Am the Possible podcast experience. Guys, today we're going to get to it and do it. But before we jump into it, I want to pause for the cause, and you are the cause. And I want to bring back something that I used to use back in the day, man. I feel it's time for me to bring it back. Sometimes you got to go back to the old school, right? Because some of those old things, man, they were not only working, but they were special. And this is a special one. On my Facebook lives, on my YouTube lives, when I used to go live a lot on social media, I would always open up with, your presence is the greatest present that any of you guys could ever give me. And I want to bring that back, man, because truly your presence really is what makes the difference. So let me thank you guys first and foremost for your presence, not only in my life, but in the life of those that, you know, your loved ones, your family members, your community, your churches, your jobs, organizations, clubs that you may be a part of. Just thank you for being who you are. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being who you are and being what you are in the world. We know that you are precious. We know that you are powerful. We know that you are purposeful because you were created in the likeness and the image of God Almighty, the creator of all things. So I know that you are an amazing individual, and I just want to pause and let you know that I think that of you. Even if you don't think that of yourself, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Even if you don't think that of yourself, just know that there is someone in the world named Treveal C.W. Lynch, Mr. What, who thinks that of you. Thank you for every download. Thank you for every comment, for every email, for every question, for every comment, for every share, for every like, for every thumbs up, for everything that you do to engage in the various platforms, whether it's the podcast platform, literally, or on YouTube, the tube. And if you're not watching on the tube, you should be watching on the tube, because your boy is looking to grow and expand that platform. So if you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please head over to YouTube, type in I Am the Possible. Go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and click that bell so that you are notified each and every time I drop new content, which I am always dropping throughout the week, in addition to the 2 podcast episodes that I drop each and every week. All right. So let's get into this one, man. Today, let me see. Do I have a title yet? Do I have a title yet? I think I might have a title. Let me check out my notes. Okay, yeah, I got a title for it. Here it is. Don't let your flaw become your failure. Don't let your flaw become your failure. What do I mean? Okay, guys, and I'm going to be sharing some of my flaws today. Well, actually, one particular flaw, because we all have them, right? Those shortcomings, those things that we don't like about ourselves, those things that we wish weren't true about us, those things that we wish just weren't a part of our lives. And typically it's those things that are like a thorn in our side. Maybe not like Paul, but it's become a thorn. Every time you see it, you're like, ah. Every time you think about it, you're like, ah. It's that thing about you that it normally separates you from other people. You're the one that has that issue, that problem, that thing, that flaw. And the majority of the other people that you hang out with, spend time with, socialize with, they usually don't have that same flaw. They got their own flaws, their own problems, but you really typically only see yours. You emphasize and you like this magnifying glass, right? Right. You are able to really see yours. You magnify your problems, right? And so this episode is for those who have maybe sensed a call on their life. Maybe you sense God is leading you in a certain way. God's calling you to do a certain thing. Maybe you just have an interest in going forward in a certain way, in a certain direction in life, and you're struggling with your flaw. And up until this point, it's been causing you to procrastinate, to postpone, to hold off. You're not moving forward. You're not elevating. You're not increasing. You're not improving in this given area. You're not enjoying all that life has for you, especially in this given area, because you got this flaw, you got this problem, right? And maybe you've made up in your mind, you've got the narrative already written in your mind. Man, I would love to do that, but I can't do that because I'm like this. Man, I would love to have this kind of life, and I see other people having that kind of life, and I really wish I could experience that for myself. But I've got this problem, this issue, this thing that's in my way. And today I want to break that down a little bit, and I want to share with you. And Lord knows I am going to preach this thing from somebody's pulpit at some point in time, and then I'm going to flip it into just a corporate presentation, and then I might flip it into a master class, and then I might flip it into a full-length podcast episode. I mean, I'm going to do everything I can to do with this one, because this is such a liberating story that I'm going to utilize to help you, as it has helped me to see the power and the grace of God, and the power that we possess in and through our relationship with God, to not allow our flaws to become our failures. And the story that I'm talking about is Moses. And I'm not going to share all of the books and all of the chapters and all of the passages, but I'm going to give you a quick little backdrop, and then I'm going to read a very specific area. But we're going to look at the life of Moses today, and we're going to look at what I like to call God taking a doubter and making him a deliverer, from doubter to deliverer. And for us, the way that this applies to our context, we, like Moses, we are doubting ourselves because of our flaw. We are doubting that the life that we want we'll ever, experience. The things that we want we'll never achieve. And most importantly, the things that we actually feel God has called us to. This ain't just what I want. This is what if I was completely honest, I know God is saying, do this thing, man. Be about this thing. Go after this thing. Possess this thing. And I've been holding up and holding back and holding off because I'm so hyper focused on my flaws and what I perceive to be my shortcomings. And sometimes we like to say, well, no. That's not a problem. Well, today I'm going to take a different route. We're going to let our problems be our problems. We're going to let our flaws be our flaws. Like, we're going to call them those things. Yep, they are a problem. Yep, they are a flaw. Let's call them what they are, because here's the power in it. If you let it just be what it is, you get to experience the grace and the mercy and the power and the miraculous that God has to offer each and every one of us, because we think that it's our battle. It's our thing, that this thing is dependent upon our ability. And that's where we have always gotten it wrong. And that's where we have continued to get it wrong. And that's what we continue to lose sight of. And whenever we get hyper focused on then we completely miss the miraculous. We completely disqualify ourselves. God doesn't disqualify us. We disqualify ourselves from experiencing the best that God has to offer, life has to offer. And we miss out on so much because we're so dialed in and we're so convinced of our flaws that they become the reason we fail to live the quality of life that God has desired and designed for us to experience. So no more of this. All right. No more of this. So let's break this down, man. Let's break this down. Here, let me use my glasses here because your boy need his glasses. first thing that I want to do is I want to share my story. I want to share a little bit about me and one of my many flaws, because I got several of them. Let me just share the one that I think is most appropriate for this moment. Around the age of 7, I began to stutter. And every stutter is not the same. Some people have stutterings where they have a da kind of stutter. Other people have what they call lips. I can't even say the word, but other people have like those things where it's like a problem with their tongue, right? And I don't know if their tongue is too big or it's kind of like blocking their air passages, but something to that effect, right? You guys know what I'm talking about, where they just have a problem with their speech because of their tongue and maybe the way that their mouth is kind of shaped. And maybe there's some more, right? But those are the 3 that kind of come to mind for me. But nevertheless, I stuttered. And why I stuttered, I've begun to unpack that. I've begun to kind of look back and see how maybe that developed, right? Through some of my early childhood trauma. I can certainly see how that, developed. And I can certainly see how the idea that my voice didn't matter, and that's why I'm so big on telling other people that their voice has value, because as a young child, I didn't feel that my voice had any value, had any impact. Like no one really wanted to hear me. And when I did speak, I felt like people were just overlooking me. So there's a whole lot as to why I stuttered, or why I believe that I started to stutter. Nevertheless, I began to stutter at 7, and I remember getting picked on constantly, being made fun of constantly. They laughed at me. They called me names. They came up with names for me. They picked on me. They bullied me. And it really drug down my self-esteem, along with the other problems that I had in my life, right? And I won't go into those because it'll just, I'll just spiral into breaking down my whole life story, right? But you guys know my life story. If you don't know my life story, head over to iAMthepossible.com, and you can definitely read up on me, and you can see videos and everything that kind of opens up my entire life story. But along with the other problems that I had, mixed with the fact that I was stuttering, the kids in my neighborhood bullied me, laughed at me, picked on me, and I became the laughingstock of the neighborhood, the rag doll. Everyone mistreated me. Everyone rejected me. And I just grew up not really having a great sense of value and worth, like zero self-esteem. And I remember my grandmother taking me to therapy a couple of times, and it helped improve a little bit, because the biggest thing that they ever taught me, and I kind of still use it today, the biggest thing that they ever taught me was, Treveal, your mind works so fast, and you're thinking so fast, and you're putting pieces of the puzzle together so fast that your mouth can't keep up with you. So slow down your speech. And so I think that as I've grown as a speaker and as a minister, as one who communicates, I've found value in slowing down so that people can really hear and feel what I'm communicating. But now that I look back at it, I also see that it's a part of my therapy, because the slower I speak, the better I speak. And maybe that's just a universal thing, but I know for me, it's helped me. But the point that I wanted to make was, I had this flaw, and I still to this day stumble over words, get caught up on words, hard to pronounce certain words, hard to start my sentences. And every once in a while, I still feel a little embarrassed. I still feel a little shame here and there. I still kind of don't like it. But I've been delivered on so many different levels to where not only does it not stop me, but many times I leverage it when I'm being interviewed on someone's podcast or something. I will leverage the stuttering so that I can encourage people who also stutter or who have flaws that they've never gotten over. I say, hey, man, look at me, a stutterer who now communicates full time. I communicate on my job. I communicate through this podcast. I preach, I teach. I'm a keynote speaker. I'm a coach. I'm a trainer. All of these things I've been certified in, and I do well. And all of them have to do with communication. I've always said, funny, God is God is part comedian, man, because he'll use the very thing that troubles you the most to be the very thing that he's called you to do. And he gets the glory. He gets the glory, guys. So in that, I hope and pray that I will, through everything else that I'll share, and hopefully I've already started to do so, to encourage you to not let your flaw become your failure, to not let your flaw be the reason that you continue to fail, to do the things that you feel called to do, and to live the life that you desire to live. So let me read this passage on Moses. And before I do, let me also kind of give a shout out to this book called The Obstacle Is the Way. I love to read, and I read books constantly, audiobooks, paperback books. I'm just a life learner. Read, learn. And I came across this book called The Obstacle Is the Way. It's a book by the Stoics. If you know anything about Stoicism or the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoics in history. I love Stoicism because it helps us to just call things as they are and to take responsibility for the one thing that God's given us responsibility over, the management of our own minds, mind management. And so I love Stoicism because it's all about mind management, right? We hear the terms, not what happens to you, but it's how you respond. And all of these other cliches and all of these other famous quotes, they all point back to the fact that God gave us management, the responsibility of management over our minds. And it is through our minds, right, that's governed by our spirit, right? Not getting into the spiritual side of it, but it should go spirit and then mind and then body in that particular order. But the mind, right, we get to govern as we allow Christ to be the true government of our minds. We, in partnership with Christ, we in Christ get to take greater residence and greater hold and management of our minds. And so it's through our thinking, it's through our perceptions, perspectives, our ideas, our meanings, our attachments, our narratives, our stories. It's through the inner man that we truly get to experience and create the kind of quality of life that we experience. And so I love Stoicism. And so this book, The Obstacle Is the Way, it talks about it. Don't avoid the obstacle. The obstacle is the way to the life that you want. The problem is the path to the life that you want. And the flaw, it is the path to the fulfillment that you desire. All right? So let's get into this, man. I am reading Exodus, starting, we're going to start over in Exodus 3, and then I'm going to jump over to Exodus 4. It says, then the Lord told him, this is God talking to Moses. It says, then the Lord told him, I have certainly seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. So the problem precedes your presence. The problem precedes your purpose. There's always a problem in the world. That's why you're here. The only reason that you're here is because you have a purpose. And the only reason that you have a purpose is because there's a problem that needs to be addressed in and through your purpose. I hope you caught that. Okay. Then the Lord told him, Moses, I have certainly seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cries and distress because of their harsh slave drivers. Yes, I am aware of their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and lead them out of Egypt into their own fertile and spacious land. It is a land flowing with milk and honey. All right, I'm going to skip down. It says, skip down to, look, the cry of my people of Israel have reached me, and I have seen how harshly the Egyptians abused them. Now, here's the key. This is God to Moses. Now go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people Israel out of Egypt. But Moses protested to God. He didn't just say no, or I don't know if that's a good, he protested. You ever see a protest? You ever see people mount up with them picket signs and they marching on this, like they protesting. They got a problem with what's being done or said. Moses is protesting. Who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt? Many times we protest for our own problem because we're saying, God, don't you see this flaw I got? Now, he hasn't revealed it yet. It's in later chapters, but we normally start off with just a rejection. God says, do this, go here, be about this. And we just, nope, I don't want to do that. Now, we haven't revealed exactly why, but the initial no lets us know that there's a reason why we're saying no. There's something else there. But my man is protesting. And I won't read every time, but I think as I read these chapters 2, 3, 4, I want to say, I know I counted at least 5 minimum, might be more. But the last time I fully read this from chapter to chapter to chapter, I counted at least 5 times where Moses protested with God and saying, no, I just ain't the guy. I'm not the one. How could you possibly send me? And God continued to meet him. That's why I got so much revelation out of this, and I got so many notes out of this, and I've got so much to share. And I don't want to get derailed in this episode. I want to stick to the main thing, but I got so much revelation, so many points as to how God deals with us and the grace and the mercy that God extends to us, even when we see our flaws, even when we're so focused on our flaws that that it's hard to really hear what God is saying. But let me stick to the script. So Moses protests like 5 times, and God is still working with him. It says, the Lord said to Moses, if they do not believe you and are not convinced by the first miracle, they will be convinced by the second. And if they don't believe you or listen to you, even after these signs, then take some of the water from the Nile and pour it on the ground. And when you do, it'll become like blood. I'm just kind of like starting to skip through some of these because these are some of those rejections. But Moses pleaded to the Lord, oh Lord, I am not very good with my words. Here it is. Here, now it's starting to come out. Moses' problem is like mine. They say that Moses was a stutterer. I don't know if he truly stuttered or not, but he had a problem with his mouth. He had a problem with his lips. He had a problem with his tongue. He had a problem with his ability to speak and to articulate. He had a problem with that. He says, oh Lord, I'm not very good with my words. I never have been. Oh, he's giving history now. And I am not now. Even though you have spoken to me, I get tongue-tied and my words get tangled. That's literally my form of stuttering. Just the tongue tie, trying to pronounce certain words, trying to start certain sentences with words that start with certain letters. It's kind of always been my thing. And I, like Moses, have said in the past, like when I was in school, I did not want to be called on to read a book. I did not, you know how like back at least back in my days in elementary, the teacher would call on people, stand up and read. Oh no, please. I did everything I could to avoid those moments. And there's so many other examples where it was like, don't call on me to speak. Don't call on me to share anything verbally. But here is now Moses giving God the reason why he can't possibly be the one that's going to do the very thing that God has chosen him to do. Then the Lord asked Moses, who makes a person's mouth? Who decides whether people speak or do not speak? Hear or do not hear? See or do not see? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, and I will be with you as you speak, and I will instruct you in what to say. Sounds pretty good to me. Sounds like a pretty good deal, right? Sounds like a pretty good deal. Well, no. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. Why? Because here come your boy Moses. But Moses again pleaded, Lord, please send anyone else. Oh my God. Oh my God. You know, as I kept reading this story, because this is not even where it ends. I mean, it continues on and on and on and on, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And God just continued to have so much patience with my man Moses. God just continued to continue to provide, I mean, it was ridiculous, man. And you know how I love to say I am that person in the Bible? Because I remember back when people used to preach, almost felt like they were preaching against the disciples. Doubting Thomas, da 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 da. Paul, he's flying off the handle. Oh no, I'm sorry, Peter. Peter is always flying off the handle, or this person did this or that person did this. And I remember having a revelation, like, nah, man, stop bagging on these disciples, because truth be told, we all act a fool the same way. We all do the same goofy stuff. And so we need to stop trying to bag on the disciples as if they just so full of doubt and fear, and how if we were in their position, we would do so much better. No, the truth is we ain't doing better, because God still relates to us the way he was relating to the disciples now, and we still act the same way. Right. So I remember having that revelation, and I remember saying, man, I'm never going to look at another person in the Bible and be like, I can't believe you was acting like this, because I had already been given that revelation. Like, yo, no, man, I am that person. That person is me. But I got to be honest with you. And maybe it's the ego, right? Maybe it's the ego, right? I mean, I got to be honest, right? Because I just interviewed my man, Freddie Jackson. If you've not watched that episode, it's an amazing episode. It's the episode before this one. So it's episode 132. It's already posted on Facebook, YouTube, and all of the, social media platforms and whatnot. But he's deemed Mr. Love, no ego. Mr. Love, no ego. And so he specializes in dealing with the ego. And I got to be honest, maybe it was my ego, man. But reading this story, it's just like I wanted to punch Moses right in the nose, man. I'm like, bro, how many times? Like God is giving you everything, dude. It got to a point where God said, yo, okay, you can't speak. I'm going to do one so gravy for you. So amazing for you. Go get your boy Aaron. Go get your Aaron. Go get your mouthpiece. He'll be your spokesman. And Aaron will go with you, and I'll go with you, and I'll share with both of y'all, both, BOOF, both. I'll share with both y'all what to say. And that boy Moses still had a problem. So I was ready to just jump through the Bible itself. Like like, man, I see Moses in heaven, man. I'm going, Mose, come on, bruh. Really? Mose, right? That's my new name for him. Mose, come on, baby. Really? That's what you gonna do? That's what you're going to do, really? After everything he's given you, after everything he shared with you, you're going to continue to plead your case. But anyway, I know that's ego, that's flesh. The truth is, man, I know in my own way, I can certainly do the same thing. So either way, my point is this: don't let your don't let your flaw, your flaw become your failure. See, I just did it right there, right? See? Now, what would I be? Who would I be if I just let that little moment right there? Because I used to do that. I used to, if I would have done what I just did, I would actually stop the recording, wipe it clean, and do a whole nother episode. Do you know how much time I was wasting? How many episodes I've scrapped because I've stuttered during the episode and I didn't want people to see it and I didn't want people to know it, because I wanted to nail it just perfectly. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to do a good job, but there comes a point where it's not about doing a good job, because people aren't looking for your perfection anyway. At some point, it's you being afraid to be who you are. A part of my makeup is stuttering. A part of my makeup is tongue-tied. A part of my makeup is having this speech thing. And while I've gotten very good at speaking and very good at communicating, I still have my moments. And I thank God for that. I thank God for those moments and for the little thorn in my side, because it reminds me of, much like this story, and I pray that you would receive this in your life. God does not qualify us, based upon perfection. And he doesn't wait for us to improve on our flaws. He uses us not only in spite of them, but he uses us almost because of them. You don't think God knew who he was choosing? You don't think God knew Moses had a speech impediment? You don't think God knew he got tongue-tied? Moses informing God like he's informing God. You ain't informing God of nothing. God knew Moses had a problem before God chose Moses. And God knew that I had a problem before he chose me. And God knows that you have a problem. And he knew you had a problem before he chose you. So who are you? Not as Moses asked, who am I that you might send me? No, ask this question. Who are you to deny God's plan for your life because of your problem? Who are you to decide to fail and continuously fail in living the life that God designed for you and desires for you because of your flaw? Who are you to do that? We sing the song, my life is not my own, to you I belong. Really? If our life is not our own, if it's to God that we belong and we give ourselves away, if that's truly what we are about as Christians, as men and women of God, if that's truly how we rock and roll, then we got to stop. We got to stop letting our flaws become the reason that we're failing. I want to share with you really quickly 3 benefits to this. And I took note. And I'm right above my time here. So I'm going to share these quickly. Number 1, when you decide to acknowledge, because you're going to acknowledge, if there's a CTA that I'm giving, I want you to acknowledge your flaw, your problem, however you name it and frame it, acknowledge it. And by reading these kinds of stories, you can read Exodus and meditate in Exodus. You can listen to this episode and meditate in this episode. And you can look over the history of since the beginning of time, whether it's biblical, whether it's just everyday life, people in life. You can watch documentaries. I don't care what you do, but I want you to acknowledge your flaw, acknowledge your problem, and then I want you to research and to read and to review as much as you need to the life of other great people that you admire, biblical stories about men and women that you call heroes in the Bible, and whatever other information that you can get your hands on that lets you look into the life of someone who achieved at a very high level, who done something great, but had a flaw. They had a problem, and they didn't allow that thing to stop them. Sometimes the greatest encouragement is an example, a life that is well lived in spite of the obstacles and the problems that person had. But I want to give you 3 benefits to this, and hopefully these 3 benefits will just encourage you to decide to take a step forward in spite of your flaws. Number 1, when you acknowledge your flaw and decide that it's not going to be your failure, you get to experience God's power. When you acknowledge your flaw and decide that it's not going to be your failure, you get to encourage others. And lastly, when you acknowledge your flaw and decide that it's not going to be your failure, you get to empathize with humanity. The first one, experiencing God's power, that is a centering of your soul, a settling and a regulation of your entire being. You get to experience God. Number 2, when you get to encourage other people, you get to do what you were created to do, which is be a contribution to the betterment of other people. So now you're living and fulfilling your God-given purpose. And then number 3, by empathizing with humanity, you get to connect with humanity. We were created for connection. We were created as a family. In Genesis, the two shall become one flesh. A man will leave his family to unite with his wife, with his spouse, and then they will have children. And we were created for connection, family, community. And the more you can empathize with other people, then the greater connection you can create with other people. And you can live the kind of life, I'll say it one more time, that God has designed you for and desires for you to experience. I hope and pray that this has been an encouragement to you. This story totally encouraged me. All right. Please leave comments, questions. Let me know how this hit. Shoot me an email. iAMthepossible. Well, that's the website. But if you want to just shoot me a direct email, it's Treveal at iAMthepossible.com. But you can just go to iAMthepossible.com and you can see the contact button. Just click on contact and shoot me an email. Let me know what you thought about this one. If you're watching on the tube, then go ahead and drop a comment. Let me know what you think. I want to hear from you. I want to know how this hits. I want to know if this has helped you. I would love your feedback. I would love to know that it's done something in your life, because I know God is looking to do some things in our lives. He's looking to deliver us from some things, and I would just love to hear your take on it. Okay? Until next time, man, I love you guys. I'm praying for you guys. I'm believing in you guys. Let's continue to regulate right here. Let's continue to innovate. Let's continue to elevate. Let's continue to be encouraged. And as always, let's continue. Please continue to be your possible. God bless you.